ATI Pro Media. It is Thursday, November 21st. Thanksgiving is going to be here before we know it. We got a lot of headlines, but I think my question is going to be, do the markets care, right? We got some more news out of Russia. A headline that I think 2-3 years ago we'd see wheat limit up. Guess what? I'm looking down at Chicago wheat. It's moved a whopping 1 cent. So it feels like we're stuck in a range bound, but don't fall in that trap, right? Brady and I are going to talk about that. Marketing wise, don't get lulled to sleep with these markets, with this range bound trade that we're seeing in ags right now. Other thing is we got to keep updating you. China and Brazil continue to open up the pipeline. And I think we're going to talk a little bit about grain sorghum, a little Milo, right? A hot topic, one that people are just beating down the door. They want us to talk about. But I think we need to look at it as a barometer for maybe what's to come in terms of China-Brazil, China-U.S. relations. So with that, bring in Brady Huck. I know he wants to talk a little cattle too. We'll save that for the end, though. But Brady, what do we know today?
It's another day here, Thursday, tail end of the week. So I'm grinding through it here. Big day tomorrow, though, with these options coming off the books. Big day.
Yep. These options come off the books, cattle on feed, right? So a lot of moving.
Commitment
You want to
of
go
trade
ahead and
data. I want to see that commitment of trade data. I cannot wait to see the commitment
Yes.
of trade data. But yeah, let's roll through those headlines first. Flash up that. We got another export flash here this morning. What do we get here today, Connor?
Sales to China, 198,000 soybeans to China, 135 to unknown destinations, and 133,000 soybean meal to the Philippines. So good to see, right? Yesterday we talked about how we hadn't had a flash sale of soybeans to China for quite a while. Good to see them stacking up, right? We're going to need all the help we can get once that Brazil crop comes online. I got to say, the weather still looks pretty favorable there. We'll keep an eye on it, though.
Yep. Always good to see those things coming in every morning. Keep that party going. Them flash sales coming up. Absolutely.
Yeah. So I was going to say, here's the topic, and something that, we grow a whole lot of it in Central Illinois. It's a little bit of sarcasm, but how important is grain sorghum to China, right? We saw a headline where China and Brazil, right, are agreeing to open up the pipeline, right, for sorghum. China on Wednesday gave Brazil the go-ahead to begin exporting sorghum to Chinese buyers. Somewhat peculiar move since Brazil hardly exports the grain at all, that Reuters reports. So, right, you're probably thinking, Connor, I don't grow sorghum. I'm never going to. What does this mean for me? I think a little bit we could use it as a barometer, right, to see how that Brazil China relationship's gonna unfold, right? It looks that every headline I seem to be reading is that China is not gonna just wait and see if we're gonna have tariffs released, right? We're going to they're setting up the framework. They're really making sure that trade with Brazil is locked in, and we're seeing those headlines.
Yeah, it definitely feels like it's, the business coming to the US here is front loading. And, could we see that cliff at the, in January, February, March, something comes in and we get the tariff action going on. We just see this cliff where, and maybe that's why the USDA left the export, corn export number alone in their November WASD figure. There's a lot of questions and head scratching as to what's going on here with this hot pace of corn exports out of the gate. But maybe there's so much uncertainty going forward that they want to play it slow and see where this goes and avoid that cliff that could happen down the road with export picture.
Yeah. Here another some color on the Milo export program is United States is the world's top exporter of Milo, and China, look at that on the right. China is almost exclusively the buyer. So, United States is 56% of all Milo exports. China is 88% share of global imports. So, what does that mean is if we start seeing Brazil sorghum, right, they have produced more and more Milo year in, but they only export, I think it was something like 8%. So if we see that Brazil Milo to China ramp up, I don't think it's necessarily indicative of good trade relationships in terms of corn and soybeans going to China as well. So I think that's how I'm looking at this.
Okay.
Is it's almost like a gauge, right? And right now the headlines are very much China's not going to take the tariffs laying down. That's how I see it, Brady.
Yeah, yeah, it's interesting. Sorghum's a big crop out in my backyard here, Connor, in Kansas, Kansas, Texas, Oklahoma. We grow a lot of milo out here. Creeping up a little bit north. It looks like South Dakota's there, number 5. That's good to see.
Yeah.
Like to expand it going north, but 3 million acres there in Kansas, number 1 producer in the U.S. of grain sorghum. Huge deal. That basis swing on milo, because milo is traded off of corn futures, and then we have the basis adjustment according to corn, and usually it's a discount to corn out here. Trades 80 to 90% the value of corn, but when China comes in with a big buying grain sorghum aggressively, that basis can get really volatile, and we can go plus $1, 50 above corn, and see that market really heat up when they're pulling and buying corn on a strong export program. But if they're not around, we got the backstop. We use it in a lot of ethanol out here in the Western Plains, and it goes into making ethanol out of, and trades that 85, 90% the value of corn typically there. But boy, if they came in, that'd be great to see. But gosh, that headline there, that doesn't give me a real strong, warm, fuzzy feeling that China's coming to, which we had the weekly exports, and they did pop up on the weekly exports here this week. But sorghum shipments on the U.S. outstanding sales are 20 million bushels this year, Connor, and they were 104 million bushels last year. Last year wasn't really a barn burner of a year either for milo.
Yeah, so year on year, even we're below the 5-year average on milo exports, is what you're saying?
I think so. I'd have to fact check that, but my gut says yes.
Yeah, we would do. Well, we saw, Brazil and Chinese president, just to give you an idea, right? They continually, right? They've struck nearly 40 cooperation agreements in different economic sectors, all the way from farming to solar power. So the trade window, they are shoring that up for the potential of tariffs. So we've got a long way to go, right? We got a long way to go on Brazil's soybean crop, but right now the framework's being laid for some type of tariffs trade war. China's getting prepared for it, is how I see it, Brady.
Yep. And you talked about it a little bit, with your premium short dated options and just option strategies here with marketing and managing risk. What if the tariffs come, and what if this market, we've had funds building a nice long position in corn here, and if there's a lot of headline risk out there. You got no crop insurance. What do we need to be doing as farmers out there to prepare for the what ifs down the road? It's great to be bullish, but gosh, we just don't want to be blindsided by some headline that comes and wrecks this party.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. When we look at not making the same mistakes that we made in 23, every year is different. But I think the key is, right, if we're just outright bullish, right, we stuck the grain in the bin and we're gonna hope for higher prices. I don't know if this is the year to do it, right? I think we need to reward this past rally, right? You can stay you can stay as bullish as you want to, right? If you or Connor, corn's going to 5, I want to participate. Guess what? There's ways we can do it, but let's do it safely, right? We need to defend our balance sheet, and that's been a big focus for me this week, is making sure we get sales on. Am I chopping around, Brady?
A little bit, but on the internet quality, you need to get that fiber there.
Yeah.
Let's get a cord stretched out there and get you tapped in. I'm out in the sticks of Western Kansas. I mean, I'm 8 miles north of town, Connor B. Let's talk to Elon Musk and get you some Starlink. I like that idea.
Absolutely. We got to do something.
Mm-hmm.
But okay, moving right along. Here's a headline, and guess what? This is why we go live, Brady, because it's already an old headline. Russian fires an ICBM, right? Ballistics missile and attack on Ukraine. I just got a pop up that said they're saying it was not an ICBM, right? It was just a missile. But this is a big deal, I think, for 2 reasons. Is that these long range missiles, turns out it wasn't a headline, but if it was, it'd be the first that we've seen that, and maybe the story of that escalation in the Russia-Ukraine war. And so we've seen a lot of these headlines, and we don't always talk about it. But I think the fact remains is when we see these macro headlines, and I look down at the commodity markets, I've got wheat down $0.015 right now, and so
Yeah.
I think it's just a testament to maybe how numb we are, or is it a little bit just staying on the sideline, very quiet trade before Thanksgiving? Is that kind of what we're seeing? But very just not real interested in these big headlines. And maybe it's just the Russia-Ukraine We've learned that both of them have gotten very good at exporting crops throughout the war. So the commodities just don't carry like they used to.
Yeah, I think you're spot on with the numbness of the headlines there. We hear over and over again, and it's you don't want it to go to the next level of World War type 3 stuff. That'll probably get us banned on YouTube saying that. But you don't want it to go to the next level. But yeah, you get used to the conflict over there, and it doesn't provide that spark to send the markets and get the markets really scared and concerned. KC wheat down 3.5 cents on a headline like that 2-3 years ago. Limit up type moves if you see something like that. So, but that just is a testament to the Black Sea and Russia kind of covering the wheat market up, not really resulting in increased export business for the U.S. You don't have a supply concern, so the funds aren't getting real scared and aren't worried about prices having to go higher because of a supply problem. So, interesting stuff, though. Good headlines and always something. And
we'll see. I'd say for your operation.
Connor B's chopping back and forth here.
You might have to take it away. I'm really lagging.
I'm going to talk a little stuff. Yeah, I'm going to talk a little cattle here while you get your internet dialed in and string that cord across the street and tap into the neighbor's fiber, Connor B. But euphoria in the cattle market. The bulls, man, they are still in charge here. I think this wheat grazing situation, you got some moisture in the plains, a lot of wheat out there that needs grazed, and you got some holiday stuff going on. We're going to have less auctions on the Thanksgiving break. Guys want to get those cattle out, so you see this feeder market just really heat up. There's limited availability, and it's kind of a race to buy the last one out there. I got to highlight and beat the drum some more on this fund position. And I've updated this chart because yesterday we looked at the feeder cattle and live cattle combined commitment of traders position. I'm going to throw in hogs on that as well. So you look at the fund long position in the hog market, the live cattle market, and the feeder cattle market, and they are long the meats. We know what happens when they decide they want to exit. That market meltdown can be violent. It can happen quick. You may even not even be able to get a position on if they decide to stampede towards the exits. But I just got to beat that drum again of the funds are long. Your risk is them bailing, running to the exits faster than you can get covered up. And I remind guys in the cattle business just to beat the drum on manage risk here. Everything's bullish until it's not. What's that game-changing event that's going to come in and catch this trade off guard? Another graphic here, going to talk about volatility. Volatility is really low in the cattle market. That makes options inexpensive, whether it's selling futures and buying a call or using a put floor or LRP. It makes it attractive to go out there and protect price. On this graphic, you can see that dotted line way back on the left side of the graphic. You can see that dotted line sells off September to December. That's a $60 move on the feeder cattle index. We could see that type of move if the funds decide to run to the exits here. So word of caution, proceed with caution. We got a cattle on feed report coming out tomorrow at 2. Today's the last day that you can get LRP coverage going into that report. You can still trade. You can still do futures options tomorrow, but there will be no LRP tomorrow after the close. We'll get that report. We'll have a weekend, and we'll have Thanksgiving. Connor B., are you back in the building? Did you get that wire?
I don't know. Look at this up close and personal. I clicked the wrong button. I'm back. I need to do something. But, hey, here's a good question just to tie into your cattle from Russ. I hear speculation that we'll see a huge sell-off in feeder cattle November 25th following the cattle on feed report tomorrow. Thoughts?
Okay. It depends to me what the numbers are, depends the headlines. And then to me, something other than the cattle on feed report, Connor, that we need to be looking at is that commitment of traders position. That data, that graphic that I flashed up, that's as of last Tuesday, November 12th. We've put $8-9 on this feeder cattle market since those numbers were printed. That fund long is even bigger and more significant. And we'll see those numbers tomorrow, 2-3 o'clock when we get that cattle on feed report as well. So yeah. Good question, Nathan, here. LRP is a great tool to go out there and protect next year's calf crop. You can protect this year's calf crop. We're licensed in a number of states. So hit us up if you have questions about LRP. I'm going to run that map here real quick. These are the states that we can cover you in right now, currently licensed. Tony Dunker, Kayla Walker, myself, LRP agents here with ATI, and can help you out with cattle coverage, hog coverage.
And Russ, I know you were asking in terms of cattle, right? Defend current prices for near and long term. But I'm going to pretend I didn't think that, and we're going to talk grains, right?
Okay.
And so it's the same thing, right? If right now, right, if we're talking old crop, defending the prices, there's multiple ways we can do it. If you're a bull, if you're a bear, but I think right now, if we're sitting on grain in the bin, right, with current economics, especially if we have operating notes outstanding, we need to talk about converting that grain to cash and any type of re-ownership we want, re-owning it on paper, I think, right? Because it gets us the grain moved. I don't know right now if storing grain, right, if the carry's there to store it till May, July. Basis in Central Illinois is, it's pretty good, a decent basis for at the river and here at our local processor in Decatur. And so defending the price risk, let's make sales. Let's stay bullish on paper, and then let's start talking about the new crop. So to me, it's as simple as that.
I like yeah, you got to flip it in. I just assumed he was talking cattle, but he could have been talking grains as well.
I think he was.
Yeah. The only point I'd add, Connor, is, let's say we do nothing here. We just chop in a range. There's still cost of ownership, right? I mean, that it has a cost of ownership, even if we just stay flat here. And what's the cheapest way to retain ownership in grain? And with the volatility low, options just make a heck of a lot of sense for this market right now.
And
once you go ahead.
Go ahead. No, you go.
Once you fall behind, it's so difficult to catch up. I mean, we seen, rewind the clock to August, and we heard horror stories of guys, giving up on 23 bushels, 22 bushels, year behind on stuff. Where were they at in 24 if they're that far behind on 23? Once you fall behind, it's so difficult to get caught back up. And that's the caution here, I guess, going forward, is don't fall behind on it. Make decisions that make sense. There's ways to stay in the game.
Yeah. And you and I beat the drum on planning on like if I'm meeting with a new customer, one of the three things I'm going to tell them that we need to bank on is we're going to plan for volatility. Because if we look back on history, corn and bean, wheat markets, they move significantly. But right, also along that same vein is that we're going to have times where we see that low volatility, that range bound markets. And so my testimony would be, if it's in the grain and we're in a range bound market and we see the carries, right? Easiest trade in the book, merchandising 101, lock in that carry, make that deferred sale, right? Even if it's just an HTA or a short futures sale, and suddenly we've captured that carry, because in a low volatility time, we get out to Feb, March, that carry erodes, okay? And so that's number one, right, is don't do things, when we see that low volatility, I think sometimes it's like that flavor of the week where we want to start doing certain things that may be capitalize on the low volatility. But guess what? When suddenly we get back into these high volatility markets, they tend to bite us. So always be careful of that. Don't do just what worked last year. Do what works every single year. So with that, I'll get off my soapbox.
That's a good soapbox to be on. Ties into the theme. Are we numb to the markets here? For sure. We need to do a premium on capture and carry and just review that here as guys tie off on marketing decisions. Probably ought to hit that and put that out. Let's run that premium commercial if we can, Joe, and tell everybody what they get with a ATI Pro Media premium subscription. Maybe. Possibly.
Welcome to ATI Pro Media, powered by Advanced Trading. We're a financial channel that loves agriculture. For just $1 a day, you'll receive advanced trading research, actionable text, and a minimum of 6 videos a week featuring industry experts and insight. Click the button below to subscribe today.
Hey, thanks for joining us today, guys. And if you have comments, questions, things you want to talk about, questions, we love the interaction, the engagement. Leave us a comment, post us a question, or call us and talk to us in person. We'd love to visit with y'all. Anything else here, Connor B?
Nope. Let's wrap it up. Everyone have a good Thursday, and we will see you Friday. We'll see what happens. Have a good one.